There was an attorney. He would have been a legal expert and a religious expert as well. His life would have been based mostly upon following rules, and most likely he did this very well. So he asked Jesus the question that all of us want to know the answer to. Teacher, what should I do to inherit eternal life? Now this was a rhetorical question. He already knew the answer. This man knew the Hebrew scriptures. In the Jewish faith, it's known as schema. And it would have been taken from Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 and 5. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. He knew this when Jesus asked the question. And he would have known from Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18, do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. These words are spoken at the synagogue every week. Every Jew knew them, especially a legal scholar. So Jesus answers a question with a question. Don't you just love when someone does that to you? Jesus said, what does the law of Moses say? How do you read it? Now what Jesus is saying is, you're the scholar, you tell me. So the man answered the rhetorical question, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus responded, do this and you will live forever. At this point, the attorney had learned nothing new. So he kept probing Jesus, and he asked Jesus an additional question, who is my neighbor? Basically, he is asking, who should I pray for? Who should I love? Who is it that I should serve? Is it people who believe the same thing as I believe? Is it people who run in the same social circles that I run in? Is it people who are kind to me? Who is my neighbor? Here, Jesus could have given the attorney a very succinct answer, everybody. Or Jesus could have been direct. You are not getting off the hook on this one, buddy. It's anybody, and anybody means everybody. Your seminary classmate, the business person who funds this little operation you have going on, the leaders of the city, it could be the losers of the city, the poor, the unpopular, the sick, the scoundrel, the person who has absolutely nothing to offer you. This person is your neighbor. But Jesus didn't do that. Instead, he told one of humanity's great stories. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho. Now, this would not have been a huge trip. Jericho was only about 15 miles northeast of Jerusalem, and it was downhill. There would have been a huge elevation drop, almost 3,400 feet. It was a tricky trail. It was not very well traveled. It was dangerous. There was thugs who placed themselves in strategic positions. The Bible continues, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and left him half dead beside the road. Nothing out of the ordinary so far, but now Jesus tells a story that has more truth than any simple fact could ever communicate. By chance, a priest came along, but when he saw the man lying there, he crossed the other side of the road and passed him by. A temple assistant walked over and looked at him lying there, but he also passed by on the other side. Now this is a tough one to hear, because I have passed the man laying in the road before, and I think you have as well. You know, that kid who just wanted some extra attention, the friend going through a tough time and you didn't know what to say, so you didn't say anything. The people at the nursing home who just want a little bit of company, the man down on his luck, the woman who is pretty much alone. We pass on the other side all the time, opportunities missed. Then Jesus continues, then a despised Samaritan came along. And when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine, and he bandaged them. Then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn, where he took care of him. The next day he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, take care of this man. If the bill runs higher than this, I will pay you the next time I am here. I want you to imagine that it's you laying on the road, alone and afraid, beaten and broke, hopeless and humiliated. The guys in the church, they didn't do a darn thing about it. But a stranger, a resident from a different land, comes along. He wipes the blood off your face. He sterilizes with the wine that he was going to drink. He uses some very expensive oil to numb your pain. He puts you in a hotel. He stays with you until you're able to take care of yourself. Now, I've been laying on that road before, and so have you. And I thank God for people shaped by prayer, grounded by faith, motivated by love, and moved to service. So Jesus has painted this picture, and he has drawn in the listener. And then he asked a question. Now, which of these three would you say was a neighbor to the man who was attacked by the bandits? What Jesus was asking was the question the attorney was asking earlier in the conversation. Who was my neighbor? So the attorney replied, the one who showed him mercy. Jesus' reply to the attorney ends the conversation. The reply was at once both profound and challenging. This conversation was not meant to intellectually convert the attorney. It was more about the heart than it was the head. It was a call to action. So Jesus concludes, now go and do the same. So civil rights activist Martin Luther King, he spoke of this parable. And he said, the first question which the priest and the Levite asked was, if I stop to help this man, what will happen to me? But the Samaritan reversed the question. If I do not stop to help him, what will happen to him? You see, love in the New Testament is not an adjective. It's not something that we feel. Jesus is not asking us to have warm, fuzzy feelings about him and everyone else in the entire world. This is not possible. The word Jesus uses for love is a verb. It's something that we do. The journey, it starts with prayer. Prayer becomes faith. Faith becomes love. And the manifestation of love is service. Now, in the same book, Martin Luther King wrote, everybody can be great because everybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve, and you don't have to make your subject and a verb agree to serve. The only thing that you need is a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. I have observed and experienced that no act of hospitality or kindness or mercy is ever wasted. Our church, it's beautiful because it's full of servants. Every chair that has ever been set up, every bulletin passed out, every smile, every hug, every prayer blanket ever made, every baby that has ever been held, every pound of food collected, every mission in Omaha, throughout the United States, and across the world in places like Belize and Uganda. No act of hospitality or kindness or mercy is ever wasted. You see, we most look like Jesus when we give, when we forgive, and when we serve. To be restored into God's image means that we love and serve with absolutely no strings attached to the people that we love the most and to strangers lying on the side of the road and everybody in between. And this restoration into God's image, it's amazing. Our radical and abundant love and service to others changes us. It does. Try it. Emerson was correct when he wrote, it is one of the most beautiful compensations of life that no man can sincerely try to help another without helping himself. Loving whoever, whenever, wherever, however, blesses the person on the road, but it has this holy and sacred byproduct of blessing the one who serves. The best exercise you will ever do in your life is squatting down and lifting another person up. Hundreds of candles can be lit from a single candle. And this really cool thing happens. The life of the original candle will not be shortened. Happiness and joy and contentment never decrease by sharing and serving.
I serve because of my family. Watching them growing up, I got to see them serve quite a bit. Then the church became my family as well. So watching that and seeing them, I wanted to serve them more. And I truly believe that God actually calls us to serve. So I was able to experience God through a few things. One of them being the mission trip and going with a bunch of friends and actually meeting a bunch of new people and seeing God change their life as well. But that was only a couple times a year, so I wanted to do something a little more frequent than that. And so I was able to help through church and seeing the smiles and joy from people at church and just the progress that we've made it's been incredible. I've been coming to Water's Edge since the beginning at Russell, and I wanted to get involved somehow, so I wanted to do something with sound and media. Also, I help out with the youth group. I've been helping since my senior year of high school with the youth group, and lastly, whatever Chad asked me to do, of course, with lunch provided, obviously. So I knew a lot of people to start off with since Russell, and now with serving, I've gotten to meet a lot more people, a lot of people I saw around church but I never knew. And so one thing is helping with the youth. I've been able to see kids from 6th grade all the way to their senior year of high school, and it's incredible to watch them grow. And actually some of them are serving now, which is awesome. I just hope that they jump on the serving train. And I really think that it's not a chore, it's a joy that God has given to me.
When I was a seminary student in Atlanta, I was a youth minister as well. A few days before one of our mission trips, an adult volunteer told me he could not make it. For this trip, I needed 2 adults for every 5 kids. It's not easy finding adults to work with high school students. It's really difficult to find an adult who can drop everything and be gone 9 consecutive days. Jimmy was the first person I thought of. He was a seminary classmate. He did not work during the summer. Jimmy is from Africa, probably as connected to God as anyone I have ever met. He was this kind, gentle, loving person. I called him up. I asked him if he had ever been to West Virginia before, told him that he needed to help me lead a trip to serve some families in Appalachia. Jimmy was totally game for this. Jimmy and I led the same team with 2 other adults and 10 students. We were doing some light construction and scraping and painting of a house. Now it was tough work. The weather there is absolutely brutal, so hot and so humid. We were there to serve, but the first couple of days, they were just painfully slow. The work was hard, the hours were long, some conflict existed. None of us were having fun and we weren't making very much progress. Jimmy told me to circle up the kids and adults and pray, so I did. Jimmy went and got a 5-gallon bucket of water and had some towels with him, and I knew exactly what he was doing. He opened up the Bible and he read from the Gospel of John, chapter 13. It talks about how Jesus washed his disciples' feet. The kids and adults, they hung on every word that Jimmy was reading with his thick African accent. He then took my shoes and my socks off. Let me take a break here, my shoes and my socks. After 8 hours of labor, this was not the most pleasant thing in the world. But he took some dish soap and a sponge and he washed my feet. His consistent prayers shaped his faith. His deep faith shaped his love. His genuine love led him to service. Then he continued to read, and he stopped when he got to the part about Jesus telling the disciples to wash each other's feet. The woman next to me, her name was Suzanne. I looked at her. She didn't know what in the world to think. I took off her shoes and I washed her feet. So she did it to the next person, and so on and so on. Person number 19, his name was Sean. Jimmy was the only person with unwashed feet. Sean took Jimmy's boots off. He took Jimmy's socks off. He washed Jimmy's feet. We experienced what it meant to serve. The next 3 days, they were so much different than the first 2 days. It was a joy, a blessing. We had so much fun. We got along, the work got done. That is what life is like when we serve. So here's the challenge. Ask the people you are closest to how you can serve them. Listen to them and serve them. Wash their feet or whatever else they say would be helpful. And the second part is this. Look at all your neighbors. You have 7 billion of them. Many are lying on the road or somewhere similar. You have bandages, you have wine, you have olive oil, you have money. Listen to the words of Jesus. Now go. Now go and do the same.